And I was like, I've done like years of bow hunting, and now in a morning I've shot three animals. It was like I couldn't believe it.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Wild Dispatch. I'm Robin, and I'm back with more skills and stories from the wild. We've got another great one for you today, this time with another South African, a bow hunter, and a good friend of mine, Cayden Marquis. Now, how would I describe Cayden? Well, probably the best way to describe him is the process in which how we met. It was actually, I was hunting on another game farm and spoke to the owner and said to him, hey, I would love some company while I'm doing some hunting because I've been doing this for a few years on my own, and it's always better when you have a hunting buddy. Is there anyone out there who is equally crazy, loves climbing up giant mountains with backpacks and camping and chasing animals for days on end, making possibly reckless choices from time to time? The owner sent me a text message. It wasn't even an actual response. It was just a link to Cayden. So we, since that moment, had a flourishing hunting buddy relationship. We've hunted many times together in South Africa. And yeah, I thought it would be great to get him on the show. And despite having spent so much time together out in the wilderness, I don't think we've actually told each other our whole stories. So I would love to get him on the show and hear his full story, hear how his journey began, his connection with the wild, how he eats so much meat and all of it is sourced from the bush. So without any more waffling, here's Cayden Marquis.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.
Cayden Marquis, welcome to the Wild Dispatch. But actually, I should ask before I even start, am I even pronouncing your name right? Because we've hung out on a bunch of hunts
Oh,
and never used your surname before.
it's funny you say that. So the that is the correct way to pronounce it.
Okay.
But for some strange reason, my family has changed it to Marquis. Uh,
Okay.
I don't know why, but Marquis is the correct way of pronouncing it, but you'll just say Marquis.
Marquis. Okay, Cayden
Yeah.
Marquis. Right, let's go with that. So basically, what you're saying in a very nice way is that what I said was completely wrong. But like, thank you. I get that.
A lot of people, but it's the correct way to pronounce it.
Okay.
So you aren't wrong there.
Okay, cool. So yeah, welcome to the pod. I think we should first of all do an intro, dude. Like, I mean, we've hunted together a bit over in South Africa, and we are doing bow hunting for all the times we've been together. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, obviously, I've given away already where you're from, but maybe a little bit more detail, and we'll go from there.
So I was born in Cape Town, South Africa. Um, Grown up here my whole life. And at around the age of 10, our family friends, the Smiths, their dad was a big bow hunter.
Cool.
And basically, we, as kids, like the two families, we all got started, got bows, and started bow hunting. Got my first bow when I was 10,
Sure.
the Diamond Edge. Uh,
Nice.
and yeah, literally started just shooting all the time, practicing. But in those days, it was actually quite different. Uh, Rather, when a hunt was planned, so we'd go up to maybe our Smith's farm in June, July, and it was like as soon as it's June 1st, you just pull out your bow, having not shot for over a year, and you'll just start shooting for like a week straight, and then my stepdad would do this test where he would say, okay, you have to put three arrows at 20 yards in like say like that. And it was so nerve-wracking, but we'd all do it, shoot, and then we were good to just to hunt.
Okay, I've got to jump
But
in. I've got a couple of questions though.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt, but so you're saying in June, like, I mean, obviously where we're from, like that sounds like it would be midsummer, but what's the weather like there at that time?
So June, so basically hunting season will start in South Africa around end of April, May, June, July, August, and obviously June, July is winter in South
Okay,
Africa.
because it's Southern Hemisphere. Seasons are
Yes,
flipped, everything's the other way around.
exactly.
Okay,
So up north, it's very little rainfall, so it's super dry during winter.
okay,
Whereas where I'm from in Cape Town, which is down south, there's a lot more rainfall in winter.
okay,
But because majority of hunting, well, at that stage in my bow hunting career was up north at our family friend's farm. Um, Majority of it was so it would happen during the dry season or no rain, and what that would mean is, animals would come into the hides. So a lot of bow hunting in South Africa, for me at that stage, it was only hide
okay,
hunting,
okay,
which is basically where you sit over a water hole or you sit over a spot where the guys have been putting feed down and hopefully something comes in.
hmm,
But I didn't shoot anything because we only had one opportunity basically a year to hunt. And my family didn't hunt. It was just like the three boys.
yeah,
And we had always, want to hunt, want to do this, want to do that. But, when you're at school, you don't really have, like the opportunity with like money, especially if your family doesn't hunt. So it was kind of maybe once a year, almost once every 2 year thing. So my first animal actually from a hide was an impala ram,
okay.
and I was so nervous. The first arrow, I was shaking so much, I just pulled the trigger, and the arrow bounced off the window of the hide.
Oh no.
And then my two buddies, James and Matt Smith, were in there, and they were just laughing at me. I was like, it's not funny.
So how old were
So
you? How old were you then? Was that what, like 13 years old,
I must
12?
have been 12 or 13. And then the Impala came back in, and I was just I couldn't even control myself.
So wait, you
And
took a shot, bounced off the window, and the Impala was
yeah,
like, "Oh,
I
I'm
brought
gonna go
it,
back."
smashed the window, and it came back after a few minutes. So
Lucky.
then I had no chance. I don't. It was such a hyper anxiety moment. I just ripped the trigger. I hit this thing high, and it was the most terrible experience. My
Oh,
first animal wounded it, and I couldn't believe it. We searched for hours, nothing.
okay. And I guess at the time, the people you were with, did they have like much knowledge about blood tracking or anything like that? Or
Yeah, so we had a pH, and it was,
okay.
dogs. It was just
So
terrible.
also we should say a PH is a professional hunter in South Africa, right? That's kind
Yeah,
of the equivalent
yeah,
of a guide over in the US.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that experience was quite traumatizing, and I would then you go back to school. There's no opportunities to hunt. I was always looking, trying to like, Dad, please let's go. Mom, take me here, but it landed on deaf ears. So what I actually did was my still to this day my bow hunting hero, Dr. Adrian de Villiers, who's for guys that don't know him is the godfather of bow hunting in South Africa and especially walk and stalk bow hunting.
Okay, cool.
Um, so I had all of his books, and I mean I was actually like a pen pal. We'd email each other. So I emailed him like when I was like 13 or just asking about broadheads. I didn't expect him to reply, and I got like a long reply in detail, and yeah, I was just so like, I couldn't believe it.
It's
So
also
just
just
reading,
oh, go
hey,
on. I was going to say to give like even more context to this from just like the backstory. Adrian de Villiers, right? He is like, I mean, obviously he's your hero, but he is also, I think, a legend in South Africa from what I've
complete
heard.
legend.
He's
Yeah,
like written multiple books of which I've now read, luckily read some of
wow.
them. And yeah, I think his claim to fame is like he was the first guy in South Africa to shoot the big five. Is that right? With a bow
I think
in
I think
in
he
like the
was the first
90s or
guy,
something like that.
yeah, legally to shoot the big five with the bow and arrow, or even the big six because he shot a hippo.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Um,
So you can imagine like a
just yeah,
12, 13-year-old
complete.
boy. Nice.
and a complete pioneer in the game. I mean, he would, talk to all like Pete Shepley from PSE and, give them tips and what's working, what's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done it all.
Yeah. Sweet.
So for me, it was always about walk and stalk, like this is what I want to, like, I want to be a walk and stalk. But all the opportunities, the farms we went to, it was very strict
Yeah.
hide bow hunting,
Okay.
which in South Africa is the most common bow hunting method. Obviously for various reasons, but it's a very successful way of bow hunting because besides, the animals inside, I mean, as you know, walk and stalk bow hunting is incredibly tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically to cut a long story short, when I was 15, I was at my uncle's farm, way up north in an area called Delstrom. Sorry,
Dahlstrom.
Leidenburg.
Okay.
In an area called Leidenburg.
Okay.
And my stepbrother Dylan and I worked the farm for a month during our June, July school holidays. And then as like a reward, we could go and hunt and shoot an animal.
Nice.
And it was like a mixture of walking next, like just trial and error. And then eventually after like 2 days, my uncle came out and he did like a stalk with me. And at about 20 yards, this impala ram, and I just drew back, shaking. Next thing I knew, the shot was done, and he said to me, like, that was perfect. You smoked him.
Nice.
I didn't even know what had gone on.
Yeah.
I was so out of my mind. It was unbelievable.
The red mist.
Yeah, complete. Then after that, started, hunting a bit more. I shot a really big kudu bull when I was 16 out of the hide. And then towards end of school when I was 18, it was basically a hunt every year. And that's when Taste came into the picture. I think I was about 16 or 17 when he opened his farm in the West Coast, which is obviously super accessible for Cape Townians.
Okay, so this
then
is Taste van Niekerk, is that right?
Yeah. So Taste van Niekerk owns West Coast hunting safaris. So yeah, basically I would go for like a day trip, and I would spend the first half of the day stalking or attempting to, I don't know if you can call it stalking, but just walking and seeing what I could do.
Taking your weapons
Obviously,
for a walk.
Exactly. I never got close, but it was all just learning. Then I would go into the hide and hopefully a springbok would come in, and usually they did, and then I would, get a springbok ram and then head back to Cape Town, all happy. But I would constantly be thinking of the walk and stalk. Then finished school, I went to the States, I was in Dubai for a bit. And then I moved back to South Africa. But now I was obviously, working, and I had money, which meant, and a car. So I was basically free. I could do what I wanted. Yeah. Which was, hunt as much as I can. And that's basically so it's probably, like 4 or 5 years ago where it really started to ramp up and hunt properly. So then I started, doing these backpack hunts at Tace's place, getting so close, but I was very apprehensive about everything had to be perfect. So Tace, also like a bit of a bow hunting mentor for me, was very strict and adamant on the animal has to be 20 yards and broadside, otherwise don't shoot it.
Okay.
So I had countless opportunities. I started getting pretty good at stalking. I mean, in super close on red hartebeest, but then it would be quartering 2, and I would sit there, no, I can't do it. And yeah, I mean, I shot a lot of pigs. I mean, my first proper walk and stalk was those pigs on the West Coast.
You mean like a European boar kind of pig?
Yeah, so they actually like a normal pig, like a domestic pig that has gone feral.
Yeah, like
I mean, they say the only difference between the only difference between a wild pig and a domesticated pig is a fence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll never forget stalking up in these two pigs. I was actually wading through waist deep water. It was like through like floodplain. Used my rangefinder, 23 yards, drew back, and I was just so calm. I'd been practicing being present
Yeah.
because, as I previously said, my previous animals, I didn't even know what had happened. It was just, then, what the heck? Drew back, the shot just sailed into this pig's lungs. I watched it drop, and I just remember like screaming and going absolutely crazy. And then that was walk and stalk bow hunting sold.
Yeah, amazing. And so how
And
old were you
then
then at this point? Like what, 15, did you say?
no, I must have been 18, 18 or 19.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you've definitely done your time in the heights.
Yeah. Um,
That's cool.
and then basically the challenge from there was to get a antelope
Yeah.
because a pig is a different, but it was an antelope. So I basically hunted for a year, walk and stalk on the west coast, just trying to get an antelope. And then I took a trip up to the Eastern Cape.
So when you say an antelope, what was the kind of species that you were looking at? Was that
Anything but a
in,
pig.
okay, so common ones, impala,
Springbok,
springbok.
red hartebeest, eland, zebra,
Okay.
anything that's not a pig.
And kind of the amazing thing about these, like, I mean, something at least in my experience about being in South Africa is antelope in America means just one thing. There's only really one, I guess, like this the speed goat. But in South Africa, it could be anything ranging from, like a duiker, which is
Yeah,
just 25 pounds, tiny thing, which is like barely bigger than some rabbits in the US, all the way up to an eland, like you mentioned, which they can be
exactly.
like 1,500 pounds plus. Like they are
Yeah,
like
easily.
the biggest antelope in Africa, right? They're like basically like enormous cows, like bigger than a moose, some of them. So
Yeah, no, they're humongous.
yeah, it's
Like,
pretty cool having the variety of animals that you can store.
yeah, yeah. So then basically, I would just hunt incredibly hard. In the eastern, I was like, Cam Haines, like just hunt as hard as you can, do this, do that. And basically, after close to a year of like walk and stalk and being so close, crazy opportunities, I finally got it done on a red hartebeest bull, a giant bull. Like he was massive. Um, it was like crisp morning, 7 o'clock. I just got in the perfect spot and I shot him at about 10 yards. It was just the most,
Wow.
I actually just started screaming.
So
Um,
was he like what happened? Did he walk into your lane or were you just like
so,
peeked around a
so
bush or where what
I
was the
was
kind of
on,
terrain like?
I was on a so basically the sun was in my eyes. So there's a mountain, like a
Hmm.
plateau, and then a steep, in like side of the mountain about 100 meters down
Yeah.
into a riverbed, but
Okay.
it's very steep.
Yeah.
So they're in Hartebeest on top here. So I figured I can't walk straight to them because they're going to see me. I need to duck down, about 40, 50 meters along the cliff side,
Okay.
and then walk up and come up to them. And when I was walking along here, I just heard like clicking noise, and I realized the red hartebeest had come down and
Ah,
were feeding into me.
perfect.
So I picked a bush and just hunkered down. It was a herd of four, I think, and there was two like red hartebeest cows just above me, like on just 5 meters in like diagonal, and I was only allowed to shoot a bull, so I was also so nervous about misidentifying.
Yeah.
And then directly in front of me at about 10 meters, this thing was just swaying, just thick. I was like, okay, this is the easiest thing.
Yeah.
He looked at me and I didn't move a muscle. And I waited and I knew as soon as he looks away, he's gonna look back at me because he's gonna look away,
Yeah.
try trick me. So he looked away. I kept dead still. He looked back at me, no movement, and then he started feeding. And I just drew back and just sunk it. Um,
Nice.
And that was basically, yeah, the start of everything. I mean, that was like the once I've got an antelope now,
Yeah.
I can call myself
No,
a
dude.
walk and stalk bow hunter.
Congratulations, man. That's pretty epic. Like red hartebeest, I've been close to them myself and never quite managed to sink the arrow where I wanted it to go. Yeah, dude, that's congrats, man. So what, you were like 18 kind of at this time? And also, I should say, like,
I
just
would have been 19,
19.
somewhere there.
Okay, yeah. Like red hartebeest, they're what? What kind of size was this thing that you were shooting at? Like,
It's probably a bit bigger than a mule deer.
okay, cool. And they have like these cool, like kind of
Very
hooked
thick bases, and they like come out like
in like a
this
kind of, it's hard to even describe. I would recommend, yeah, definitely look
very
up
strange
red
creature. So it
hartebeest.
comes up and
I think they're almost
fills
like
up.
devilish looking, like with the way their
They
horns
do.
are.
It looks
Yeah,
like if you watch the movie, I think Maleficent with Angelina Jolie, that Cinderella thing. It looks like that.
yeah. That's probably. I guess that's probably what they were inspired by.
Probably is, yeah. Yeah, so let me show you that red beast.
Nice. So,
Okay, so this is him.
wow. Yeah. Okay. Now, so we're looking at an image. It's like a. I'll put a link in the bottom of the pod, but it's kind of mountainous terrain. It's classic kind of thorn bushy looking. I mean, something about South Africa is everything bites you, even the plants. That's what they say there, hey? So yeah, amazing looking animal, like bright red, devilish horns. The thing, yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
yeah,
What's
his
that, like a
base is super
250
thick.
pounds probably animal? Like,
Yeah, about 70 kilos.
oh, okay. So that's like
But
180, 200 pounds ish.
yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
that's an
But
amazing
he's
animal.
he's big and very strange. Their backside slopes and this massive head and just such a cool
Yeah,
animal.
yeah,
And yeah, to get it walk and stalk, my first like proper in the mountains by myself was like yeah, life changing
yeah.
for lack of a better term. But
No, it's amazing, dude.
yeah, then obviously this was my first fallow deer with Fred. Um, and this was my first walk and stalk with Fred. It
Okay.
was our first morning. So we went out
And so you say
and
Fred, I should just set up. Fred, tell us a bit more about Fred. Fred Hammer,
yeah,
right?
so
Are you talking about?
basically, yeah, so Dr. Adrian de Villiers, I would so chat to him all the time, and he used to offer a like a bow hunting walk and stalk like course, if
Okay.
you want to call it that. But basically you would spend the weekend with him and hunt with him and just absorb as much knowledge as you can.
Yeah.
But obviously he's a bit older now, so I would message him and say, like, are you still doing this? Because he sold his farm and all that stuff. But he said to me, here's a contact. His name's Fred Hammer. He will teach you everything you need to know. I taught him, he bow hunted with me for years. Like, this is your guy. He's in the Eastern Cape. Um, this is the guy. So I didn't really, not think much of it, but like I had another place where I shot my red hartebeest to go hunting. And anyway, we were planning a trip, and I said, oh, let me phone Fred or message him. And we had a phone call, and it was just like, yeah, this is the guy. This is going to be next level. Um, and yeah, my hunting buddy Seb and I rocked up at his farm, and it was like friends already type thing. We chatted I mean, the hardest part of the hunt was you getting up at 5, and then you're not getting into bed at 8, 9 o'clock because you're sitting at the braai like a fire until 11, 12 at night. Just, I mean, story after story after story. Um, so yeah, that's Fred
That,
Hammer from
yeah.
Hammer Safaris in South Africa.
Okay.
Um, an absolute, beyond legend status. So the first morning we went out and we spotted these these two stags, and we were like, yeah, let's do it. And I've been stalking, for like a few years at this point, and it was kind of, if you see an animal, you're not gonna get it, but just try.
Yeah, exactly. I know that feeling.
And I'm just following behind Fred, this, and next minute, 38 yards, this thing's just quartering away. And he's just like, take your time, take your time. And I just pull back, super relaxed, and just smoke him. Um,
Perfect.
and this is crazy. That this is like I've been hunting forever, and now all of a sudden, like I've just what I learned in that morning is the equivalent of like a year of hunting by myself.
Yeah. And how
Um,
old were you at that point? Like 20 something?
so that was 2021, I think it was. Yeah, it must have
Okay.
been 2021.
Okay,
So
2021.
it wasn't even that long ago, to be honest. Hunting with it might have even been 2022. Time's
But
going so fast now after COVID, everything
yeah.
gets confusing.
But you've got like what,
Um,
like 8 years of hunting under your belt at least at this point, right? Like maybe
yes,
more.
no, yeah, so I mean, just just a lot of hunting, but a lot of failure, like failure upon failure upon failure. It was, I mean, I'd go 4 days of walk and stalk and not shoot anything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'd go 3, 4 hunts and not shoot anything. It was, just basically I think I got too used to failure. I didn't actually realize how possible it is if you do everything correctly. I didn't know about the behavior of animals and when to move, when not to move, how important it is to stick in shadows. Um, so so much stuff that you learn from experience. But when you hunt with someone like Fred, in a day, it's a year's worth of experience. And especially in South Africa, with the number of animals we have, you can just gain so much experience so fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and yeah, basically, then we gutted this out, sent it out, and then we split up. Fred went with Seb, and I went alone. And now with this new gained confidence, and this is how you do it. I'm just going to do what Fred did. I shot like a big spring hare, or one of those rabbit type things,
Okay.
to make stew. So now it was like I've shot two animals.
Nice.
Then I see warthog, and I'm just like, what in the world? Draw back 24 yards, hard pumping, and just send it into through the sow's lungs. She's done, and I was like, I've done like years of bow hunting, and now in a morning I've shot three animals. It was like I couldn't believe it.
That's so cool,
Um,
dude. That's so cool. It's like
and
it's
yeah, just learning from Fred, literally.
yeah, amazing how, and I say like I'm sure there'll be other stories about this in the future, but
And you're
definitely
actually able
like
to see him. Yeah,
hunting with
this is
Fred.
Fred.
Oh yeah, there you go. There's a pic of all of
There
us
we go.
together.
Yeah,
All of us together after a long day hunting. Yeah, like amazing. Like for sure. Doesn't it make such a difference? Like you have someone, I don't know, you're in the presence of someone who really knows what they're doing. It's amazing, right? And you just learn so quickly that way. It's
complete. I mean that's why obviously when we hunted with Fred, I said to you, I was like, dude, if you get a chance to hunt with this guy, do not like miss it. It's life. It's life. It is. I mean, what you learn in a day or 2 days hunting with him, you can't. It's years of experience
oh
of
for
trial and
sure.
error that you're just picking up like that in an instant.
Oh for sure, dude. And I mean I've hunted with a few people, and I don't think I've ever hunted with anyone that's made it look so easy. That's the crazy thing. You're like, what? Wait,
Yeah.
so all the rules that I thought existed? Oh, that's maybe not exactly how it really is. It doesn't have to be like that. Yeah,
No.
no.
So yeah. So he basically the biggest thing he drove into me at that time was I would see an animal and I would just go for it.
Hmm.
Just try. I mean, there's a chance. What he drove into me was if you see an animal, just stop for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and just think, is it is it actually worth stalking? What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? Because I would just see it and just beeline.
Yeah,
Whereas he would say, okay, we're at this bush now, where are you going to from here? And from there, from that bush, where are you going to? And
Hmm.
I say, so no, you have to have a plan of how you're going to do it. Are they going to feed this way? If you spook them, are they going to run and scare off other animals? So it was a complete tactical mindset change for me,
Yeah, no, it makes
um,
complete sense.
which has made the huge, I mean, the biggest difference ever.
Yeah.
Just sitting back and thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do here? What is my game plan?
Yeah. I think, I mean, being a relatively new hunter myself, much less experienced than you, for sure, there is like a strange instinct, isn't there? I don't know where it comes from, but you see an animal and it's almost like you just want to run at it. You want to like you're so
Completely.
it's
Yeah.
like exciting. You've seen an animal, you want to like charge it down. I guess especially hunting in the US on like public land where there are much fewer, far fewer, I should say,
Yeah.
far fewer animals, and then you see one and you're like, oh, here's my chance. And I think there's
Literally.
so much excitement. It's really easy to to just kind of not think clearly and to rush things, and then put that they're like trotting off into the nothing, and then it's over. So
Yeah. So, I mean, literally that hunt with Fred. So I shot a fallow deer and a warthog. Um, it, I basically took what I learned from there
mm,
and brought it back to West Coast hunting. And it was just, I shot an eland cow, which,
yeah.
two guys have done.
And how much did
Um,
that thing weigh? Like kilos is fine, like
I think
or pounds.
it was actually a smallish cow. She weighed about 100 and about 140 or 100, somewhere around there. So it's not actually that big. But after Fred's hunt, I took this like knowledge I've got now, and my buddy Matt and I went up the west coast,
Yeah.
and we hunted backpack for 3 days. And on the last night, just before sunset, we positioned ourselves perfectly, and these eland fed into us. And at about 12 yards, he sunk an arrow into this giant cow. It was actually they actually said it was like a transgender one
Oh,
because it had its forehead had hair, so it
okay.
was
Yeah, yeah.
like almost like a mixture.
That's funny because I
Um,
remember you showed me a picture about that before, and I
yes,
assumed it was a bull because so something.
because of the
Eland
mane,
bulls normally
the
have
tuft.
like a funny curly wig on the top of their head, don't they?
Yes,
And it had that,
like
so
a
I was like,
whole
oh, it's
row.
and it was big enough to be a bull. So
Yeah, so it was such an. I mean, I had a bush. I'd sawed off a bush and was putting it over him while he was shooting because it was so close. And he just plugged it, and I just jumped at him. I was like, dude, no ways. I'm like, we were just hugging, and he was just shaking. And then it was like, was that a bull?
so you were supposed to shoot a bull at that point? Was that what you were, or
No,
you could have
he wanted to
taken?
shoot a cow.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so now we're like, being the spectator, it's the best because there's no responsibility, there's nothing. I mean, you're just having fun. Um, and I mean, we watched this thing just drop, and the whole herd stayed. I mean, he could have shot another one. The herd was like, what's just gone on?
Wow.
Um, and yeah, it was a cow, but a giant. So that cow, I think it weighed about 185, 9 or 190 kilograms.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's
So yeah,
decent.
it was giant.
So that's getting into like the 450, what, 400, 450.
Yeah, times
Doing,
2.2, so somewhere around there, but
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
big.
it had secondary growth on his bases, like white tips. It was next level.
That's very cool, man.
Yeah.
So nice to like, yeah, learn stuff, put it into action. That moment when you have success, oh,
Yo, no, it
you
was
can't beat it, hey?
literally. Um, yeah, so then, from not having shot anything to all of a sudden now we've got this eland on the ground, like first hunt after hunting with Fred. Then I hunted alone, got that eland cow, and it was just like the game's been changed. It's this is bow hunting now. Um, then yeah, hunted again with Fred, shot warthogs, like just started piling them up. And after that, it was like, okay, this is the thing.
Yeah, dude.
And then it was kind of like almost pushing a giant rock. Once that boulder's rolling, it just everything started clicking into place hunting wise.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can only imagine you have more confidence. You've like it's not your
You just
first
realize it's
rodeo.
possible.
Yeah, and then
It's
you.
not an abstract thing anymore. It's like I can actually do this.
So, what other
And
animals, other antelope, have you kind of got on the ground since?
yeah, so then it was yo, that's actually a good question.
Well, I mean, we don't
I
need to
think
know.
I
Like,
shot
yeah, go on.
yeah, then it was must have been a zebra. So I shot a really big zebra walk and stalk. Um, and then it was hunting at Fred, warthogs, fallow deer, um, and I got a really nice eland cow also up the west coast, which was the second eland shot or the third walk and stalk with a bow on that property or that concession. So
Nice.
it was, yeah, just unbelievable. Um,
That's
but the fallow deer is some a very special animal. Uh,
so fallow
getting that
deer.
done.
Fallow deer, they're not actually native to South Africa, right? I
No,
think
so
they're from New
most
Zealand
people actually
originally,
think
aren't
they're
they?
from. Yeah, I think they're actually from India.
Oh, okay.
I think they're Asian.
Hmm.
But a lot of people think they're from Europe. 'Cause I think, they obviously got brought over to England and with the Lords, with Scotland and, all that sort of stuff. They get massive fallow deer out there. But from what I know, they are Asian,
Okay, cool.
Asian fallow deer.
Yeah. So the warthogs that you're hunting with Fred, right? He, yeah, he has a load of warthogs on his property. But I remember it's a pretty cool property. What like talk to me about the terrain. What kind of terrain are you hunting them on?
So, obviously the Eastern Cape has it's such a big area. There's obviously tons of different terrain, but basically the
Hmm.
terrain that at Fred's place, so obviously close to Bedford. So how the farm works, there's a few different sections to hunt, but it's mountainous, so a lot of mountain,
Yeah.
but then a lot of kloofs. So, for guys, it's basically a lot of valleys.
Okay.
So there's a lot of you've got mountain, and then valleys that run all the way down. So for that you can depending on the wind you can hunt up all the way up the valley to the top of the mountain, or you can start at the top of the mountain and hunt down the valley. You can walk on the sides and go in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and along valleys like that, there's different tiers where as it's getting higher, you can have a flat section of just beautiful, like just grass. I mean, it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it looks like like almost like a soccer field, and I mean overhanging trees, so there's a lot of shade, just excellent stalking conditions. Then on other parts of the property,
Yeah.
you have uh, like almost smaller mountains, but a lot more vast, open and flat, like plateaus or valleys,
Mm.
with a few rivers running in between,
Yeah.
and then just a lot of bush, a lot of trees. It's perfect stalking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The rivers definitely are like an element. I remember like having that water supply just was
yes,
super nice. Like all those long valleys that you could walk down, there'd usually be some kind of river or stream going through that would
going through exactly.
just be
Um,
a source of survival for those animals.
you
Yeah.
know, and then you also uh, like that you get sections with long grass, which is just perfect for stalking. And then very thick sections, a lot of tree, a lot of bush, and then it opens up into a like a lovely like grass um, embankment, which you just know animal. I mean, if I was an animal, that's where I'd go to go eat.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of high points where you can just reach a little high point, just sit and glass,
Oh yeah.
um, and even just points where you've got a pretty good field of view, and you can actually just sit down for 20 minutes, and there's such a good chance an animal's just going to walk past.
Fred actually has a spot, doesn't he? Called Number 10 Downing Street, right? You remember that?
Exactly. So
So
yeah, so number 10 Downing Street is where it all happens. Um,
it's also should explain like 10 Downing Street. This is a very imperialist kind of reference, I guess, from the old days of the English Empire. But number 10 Downing
yeah,
Street is where the Prime Minister lives in England. So yeah, go on, carry on.
it's where where everything happens. So that basically is an area of the farm where there's a small dam, but it has access, from every angle. So you can just have animals coming in, going. It's just a hot spot.
Okay.
So it's a great spot to. Um, there's a ridge line where you can actually sit and look down onto 10 Downing, but then on that ridge line, you've got a view of another big, thick valley into thickets. And I mean, out of those thickets, just animals appear out of nowhere. Um,
Yeah, it's
it's
amazing.
just, it's awesome country.
It's almost like
You,
that 10 Downing Street stuff. I actually took a warthog from up there. Well, not from up there.
mm,
I wasn't shooting an arrow all the way
from the
down.
air.
But that amazing spot, it's almost like when you look down, you're looking at, it's almost like you're looking at a map. It's so vertical. You're so
Yes,
it's not crazy high. Elevation is probably just maybe 80 yards up, 100 yards up, but you're just like looking
mm,
over a cliffed out edge down into this very flat like just section between two like sheer canyon kind of edges. And then amazing that you can
exactly.
just look down like you're looking at a map and you're like, okay, there's the pigs, there's the fallow deer, there's the nyala, all those kind of different animals that are
And
around.
then you just
And you
plan.
can make your game plan and then go around and whatever the wind's doing and figure that out. So, yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to get a pig down there, and it was all because of number 10. But
Yeah.
so you hunted there? Did you spent a lot of time kind of hunting in that area now, or was that kind of what the next step was in your kind of hunting career, should I say? Like you kind of learning from Fred and like hunting there.
Yeah, so in fact, although that is a favorite spot of a lot of guys, at that property, my favorite spot is a place called the Four Windmills, where you're on a massive mountainside, and you just have all these drop-ins
Hmm.
into an very thick, a lot of just trees,
Yeah,
into this giant valley, and there's just
like
all
thickety
these.
kind of trees, right? Like what?
Exactly.
No more
Thickets
than
with openings. There's just so much cover, and then there's, openings all over. And it's got all these different, um, small, like valley type things working down. And, there's just animals crawling everywhere. Um, so yeah, just cutting my teeth, working all those areas. Um, just the amount of warthogs you see is just it's unbelievable. Um, and just walking slowly and just stopping, and you just stop and just wait a bit. And um, I mean, my brother and I, when we were hunting before we went, we were actually just down from 10 Downing,
hmm.
and we had seen. I said to him, there's impala rams just ahead, bachelor group.
Yeah,
I said, I've got to give this a try. It's like my dream to get one, like properly walk and stalk.
yeah,
And so I said, let's sit down, take off our shoes, and we're gonna go for it. So my brother had a crossbow, so he was actually out from Australia.
mm,
Um, so just got him a crossbow to use. Actually, Tace organized it for him.
yeah.
So we're sitting, taking off our boots, and next minute, two warthogs just walk not 15 meters in front of us. Said him, but go, it's yours, do it. We like run up, we get into a good shooting position. It's at about 22 yards. Pulls up the crossbow, bang. just drops this thing. And the shot was kind of a bit down, so it went through the spine and then out the lungs, like
Wow.
smoked him.
Okay.
And this pig just like just spinning in a circle. Like I knew it was dead, but I said to him, I was like reload, you need it. And he just started. He couldn't. He was. You shoot it. You shoot. Because obviously with a crossbow, it's not as simple as a bow or a rifle to reload. You know,
Yeah.
a rifle in a bow, you just put an arrow in. This is like cranking and anyway.
It's a whole
By the
medieval
time,
process.
yeah, by the time he um had reloaded, the animals, the water was dead. But just it just speaks to the power of just sitting down.
Yeah.
I mean, sat down for a minute, taking off our boots, and just walked straight past us.
And that was his first hunting experience, is that right?
No, so he's hunted. Uh, it was his first walk and stalk,
Okay.
so that's why he was.
so
um,
so like nervous or like kind of overwhelmed by all the stuff going on, you mean?
and especially when 20 meters or 20 yards away from a warthog boar that's been blood was basically spraying out of it from its lungs,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just going crazy. I mean, it's a very intense
It's
experience.
definitely visceral, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, but just that area is just crawling. Fallow deer, um, warthogs, impala, kudu, just I mean around every corner there.
So that's kind of like where you're at now, like that's your playground and that's where you kind of continue to fill the freezer and
Yeah,
is that right?
no,
Like, or is there any other kind of stages that you want to talk about? Or, go on.
no, continue. What we can say?
Well, I was going to say like if that's kind of like we're up to speed now on what kind of your process as a hunter. Do you have anything cool coming up? Like any cool hunts in the future?
So, um, in the next, I think we're going in probably about 3.5 weeks. My buddy Seb and I are going up to his family farm up in Namibia,
Oh wow.
um, about 2 hours out of Windhoek.
Okay.
And yeah, so we're going to be target. It's a massive property.
So we should just say,
Awesome.
explain. Namibia is not actually in South Africa. Namibia is another country, right?
Yeah,
It's
completely different country.
yeah, no, but I'm just most people Africa is Africa, but I mean
Yeah.
I'm still learning about the many countries. Every time I'm there, I'm learning of a new country that I haven't heard the name of. But so where is Namibia?
So Namibia is northwest of South Africa.
Okay,
That, yeah,
that's a
northwest.
pretty
Yeah.
decent
So
drive from Cape Town, right?
yeah, so you're looking at about to the border about 8 hour drive,
Okay,
but from the border of where we would go in is another 8 or 10 hour drive to his farm. So
wow.
what we do is we'll actually fly to his farm and then drive from the airport to his property.
Ah,
Um, so yeah, very excited for that hunt. There, a lot of gemsbok, or oryx,
yep, yep.
impala, big warthogs, some massive tusks. The warthogs there is very interesting. They've got huge tusks, but very average sized bodies.
Oh, funny.
And another interesting thing about those warthogs is they all have a tusk that's been chipped off.
Oh, wow.
So it's just these pigs with this crazy character of this massive tusk, and then one is just like that. So what happens in that area is just below surface level, there's a lot of hard rock
Hmm.
all over. So these pigs are digging, and they just bang, or they'll smash a rock. I don't know, a single time or if it's accumulative, and a tusk just goes.
Wow.
So it's just this super cool character. But the most exciting thing for me, what I'm going to be focusing on, is um, it's a different species of zebra. So it's called Hartman's. I think it's Hartman's mountain zebra.
Wow.
Anyway, it's a different species. So
Oh,
apparently
mountain zebra.
they taste different to Birchall's zebra, which is our common one in South Africa,
Okay.
and their skin, their
The
coat is
hide.
different.
Wow.
Um,
That's so cool.
so
I
I'm
didn't know that there was a mountain zebra, but anything that you put mountain in front of it instantly makes it like it's got to be
so
badass.
cool, exactly. Um, and yeah, so apparently the meat it tastes very different to Birchall's zebra, and I mean I love the zebra meat that I had actually with my friends. I mean that was actually one of that's their favorite meat that I've given them,
Ah,
um, is zebra, which is quite strange.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so it's going to be cold. Um, I see it's about 3 degrees about 3 degrees Celsius. So
That's
I mean that's
like
probably
freezing, just
40
over.
degrees or
Yeah, just over freezing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's cold, which it's just going to be awesome to get into the bush, man. Um,
How long are you going to be there
and
for?
just
How long do you have to get it done?
so we have actually been planning to do a proper, like our version of a backcountry. Because
Okay.
in South Africa we don't have public land like you guys do in the States.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the hunting is you're on a private property, and then it's luxury. I mean, you stay in a lodge or that sort of vibes. And I mean, we both love the hunting hard, and
Yeah.
I would even say maybe the romantic nature of old school hunting under the stars, sleeping in the bush. Um, So we've been planning to do like a proper backcountry hunt there. So the property's it's huge. I think it's about 15 or 20,000 hectares. So it's gigantic.
Wow, yeah.
And
That's big.
the back area of the farm is big mountain country, and it doesn't have roads or anything. So it's completely uninhabited. Just animals. So I mean there'll be kudu in there and mountain zebra that have never even seen a human being ever.
Wow.
Um,
I feel like that's going to
so
be a different. I always curious with animals, right? Like, I feel like there's sometimes if animals have never seen humans, they can actually even be like a little tamer because they don't see you as a
I
threat
don't know what
because
it is.
because
You don't know
like
what am I
those
looking
funny
at?
two-legged bipeds haven't shot at me yet,
Yeah,
so it's fine. But like, there's
exactly.
definitely that funny thing where actually super wild is actually maybe it'll be super. I'd love to hear. Maybe you can get back on at some point in
Yeah.
the future. I'd love to hear how it
So
goes.
yeah, so on that is well, so basically this trip, before we do that, because there's no signal there, we'll be completely um alone. We want to do so this up and coming trip we're going to do now is going to be a hunting trip mixed with scouting and like a reconnaissance trip for our proper backcountry hunt.
Okay.
Um, so we're going to scout areas and plan. We need to plan water points
Yeah.
where we can get water. You know, if shit hits the fan, how do we get out,
Hmm.
etc. We don't, going in blind and something happens is, yeah, we'd rather go in there a bit
Yeah. Yeah.
organized and some sort of idea because I mean, it hasn't even been mapped. Um,
Wow.
so
Really?
yeah, and just to go in and even see if there's animals. I mean, maybe the animals don't even want to stay there. They, go into more of the water areas and that sort of stuff. So going to be a lot of reconnaissance and seeing exactly what's happening. But the interesting thing with, a lot of the time guys talk about, high fence hunting in South Africa, um, as it, being, oh, the animals there, so it's easier. Our properties here sometimes, are huge.
Yeah.
And you, another thing people need to understand is the conservation model in South Africa works because of high fenced game farms. If there was no private game farms, you know, there would be very, very little wildlife
Yeah.
left in South Africa. And because the game has a price tag on it, people protect it.
Yeah. No, I actually
You know,
remember. I remember listening to a podcast exactly about this a few days ago, right? And actually, there was a real turnaround, wasn't there? But apparently, there were only something like 3 or 4 million animals,
we've got
antelope.
way more animals
Yeah,
than we did 100 years
and
ago.
the niche difference is, and it's different to some other surrounding countries apparently, but because different from America, where the government owns all the animals, it doesn't matter where they
Mm,
are if they're on your property. In South Africa, if the animal is on your land, then it's your property, which means that you can then profit from it. But kind of the
exactly.
surprising twist of that is that, okay, well, if you have animals, you can like get some more in, or you can breed them together, or you can like
Precisely.
give them a nice environment to live, and you don't, if you nourish the population, then you will make a profit from it. So because of that, the population has boomed to like enormous numbers, well over 10 million in a very
Exactly.
short period
And
of time,
even
apparently.
the genetics of the animals have improved. It's South Africa, it's a conservation success story. But what I'm getting to is you asked about hunting animals that have seen human beings.
Yeah.
Um, you hunt properties where animals have been hunted hard, and those things know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They know that they must know they're being hunted. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
because I mean they've got to. I mean it's a predator. Maybe they don't know what we are, but there's definitely danger. Um, because I've heard of a story of guys going to a massive concession in Zimbabwe, um, where guys shot bowhunters shot like they each in the morning they shot like four impalas each,
Wow.
and they just said, these animals are totally wild. They didn't. It's not like hunting certain places in South Africa where the animals are pressured. These were just totally wild animals, and you could just stalk and get it done. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what the predator situation in that area, but in my opinion, there's definitely something to be said for uh, animals that have been hunted hard, and
Wow.
especially in late season. I mean, it will be the same even in the States in public land. If an area has been hunted hard, those animals there
Yeah, they
are
run. they
wary. They're
they go
skittish.
running fast. They go running fast, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Wow, awesome, dude. That it's cool to hear. Cool to hear about your plans, man. I'm very jealous, I must say. But it's going to be cool. Like one thing I was going to ask actually is, I know you eat a lot of meat. You were talking about how tasty that zebra is, and you made me think, like, you've been hunting for a long time, well over a decade, most of your life, I guess more than half your life, way more than half your, well,
Yeah.
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 You've been hunting, and I'm curious about like your whole relationship with meat. I know that you like have a pretty heavy carnivore diet now, but like how did that kind of work? Like going from like, I guess, eating meat that you'd hunted from the age of what, 13 years old or something. Tell me a bit about that, like the process of like
Yeah.
learning that.
So when it started, um, an impala, a kudu. Obviously, I was still, a kid, so I was, under my parents' roof, and dinner was made, and we a lot of the meat, obviously I didn't have control of food, right? So you just eat
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
you're given. So a lot of the meat would actually just turn into biltong. So just the butcher would make it into biltong, and would start you just have some sausage or some biltong, and you have it now and again. And I mean, obviously, it was fantastic to eat your own meat. And then when I started getting, like 15, 16 years old, and started gymming and started training more, and, water polo and that sort of stuff, I would, start to cook my own food,
Yeah.
um, as extra, like to supplement whatever I'm eating.
Okay.
And then I'd say, well, if I shoot a springbok, I can have, 15 or 14 kilograms of like some of the best meat ever.
Yeah.
So it started, 16 years old, Springbok. Then I would come back, just this huge thing of mince and steaks. And it was like, this is crazy. I've got all this food. Um, but it was just mince and steaks. I mean, and would just eat it like that.
Like the back straps.
It was awesome. And yeah, back straps
Hmm.
and just I'd say to the butcher, just mince the rest.
Okay. Yeah, cool,
Um,
man.
the butcher would, make like cheese grillers, and every once in a while the family would get together and have like cheese grillers. It would be so good. Um, but as time went on, and left school and living by myself, and control. I mean, then it's eat what you want. You control everything.
Yeah.
Um, then I really started diving into meat and venison, game meat. Um, so it started, going to going hunting, then I go to the butcher, and then I started getting a bit more experimental. So, keep me all the steaks and make some burger patties and make some sausage, and then the rest you can mince. So my diet, or my food rather, started increasing from just mince and steaks to all the steaks and burger patties now and sausage. And then it even went to, no, let me keep a leg of a springbok and I'm going to do a leg roast.
Nice.
Did a leg roast, and I was like, this is insane. This is so good. Then it progressed to even saying to the butcher, no, let me just put all the bones in a bag. I want to keep the bones. I'm going to make bone broth.
And
Then I started
and
making,
keep the meat as well, I would assume.
yes, for sure.
No, just keep the meat.
um,
I just want the bones.
I just
That's
want the
actually
bones.
the bone diet.
So then I started, eating bone broth. Then I started to eat the organs of the animal. So I'd eat, it would keep the liver and the heart and the kidney.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm quite, or very, I would say, I'm probably borderline obsessed with uh, old cultures. So, the Mongolians and Native Americans, and just reading their diets and how they did things.
Mm.
Um, you know, Native Americans, a lot of the tribes would kill a bison or American buffalo and eat the liver fresh out of the carcass.
Yeah, yeah.
So every animal I shoot or I kill, I will always take a bite out of the liver fresh, almost as a spiritual connecting to the animal type thing.
I think
Um,
animals do that too, right? Like predators.
yeah,
So
I mean, dude,
I
we
mean, this is a
actually,
whole sidestep, but like I once came up on a bear that was chowing down on the deer that I shot, and the first thing it did was ripped up the inside and was going straight for the innards and
dude,
the liver, because
I mean,
that's actually the gold, isn't it? That's the stuff with the most
yeah,
nutrients.
and so in Cape Town, we used to have a massive great white shark population.
Mm.
These giant sharks, killers. But yeah, obviously beautiful, beautiful creatures. And we haven't, people, guys haven't seen them for years because there's these two killer whales called port and starboard that come into, our Cape Town waters, and they just decimate these sharks and they just eat the liver. So all these sharks rock up onto the beach with just their livers eaten out.
Wow, savage.
So it obviously just speaks to the nutrition of the liver. Um, but yeah, to get back to butchering, a massive progression for me was when I realized I could do my own butchering.
Okay.
Um, so I started off, I bought a like a sausage maker,
Mm-hmm.
and then a big mincer and a vacuum sealer. Um, so I originally I got the butcher to with the
To
butcher's
mince
mince that
everything.
he did for
Yeah.
me. I made sausages,
Okay.
and I made these sausages, and I could not believe it. it was the best thing I've ever eaten. And it was like, I've just made, I mean, these sausages look like they've come from a butchery. Like this, I can't believe this. Like I've literally made this thing.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, now I'm gonna butcher myself from a whole animal. So first time I did it, I was up in the Eastern Cape and I killed a kudu cow, perfect meat, like unbelievable animal.
Yeah.
So I it was a very good learning curve because I drove back home.
Hmm.
So we left the Eastern Cape at about it must have been 8 o'clock in the evening, my buddy and I on a Sunday night, and we drove from 8, and I rocked up to my work at 7 a.m. with the kudu cow in the back of the pickup truck, the bucky. I was like, cool. I'm gonna work a few hours and then I'm gonna start butchering this thing. So I'm on YouTube, bloody hands, trying to do the whole tutorial, pressing pause, butchering, and it went good. I managed to. I sawed it with a jigsaw, like a wooden jigsaw. I was sawing bone. Oh, it worked though. I managed after hours, managed to get it done,
Yeah.
and processed a lot of it, and then I put a whole bunch of it in like the fridge. So I have like a big fridge at work,
Hmm.
and like put it all in packages before I would freeze it.
Okay.
So like I'll freeze it tomorrow. So I was like, cool, perfect. I come back the next day. I open the fridge and the packets are all green,
Oh
or
no.
majority of them.
Oh.
And I was like, what is happening? So I opened the packets, smelled like rancid. So I tried to put it under the tap to like wash it off and
Yeah.
didn't go away. So then I phoned Fred and I was like, but Fred, what the hell? What is going on here? What is happening? And then he said, yes, I'm actually trying to think what it was called. I think it's called bone rot. And
Oh.
so basically, if you leave a carcass above, I think it was 5 degrees Celsius or 6 degrees Celsius or something for
Yeah.
too long, that wherever there's bone and meat, the bone gives off heat because it's
Oh.
retained heat, and this meat just goes.
Oh.
So I lost a quarter of that kudu.
Oh.
Um, I'm just so grateful. Not even a quarter. I lost the neck, which was gonna make unbelievable like poiki, like stew. Um, and I lost just a bit of the back or something like that where there was bone. Well, it
Okay.
wasn't huge,
Yeah.
but I'm just so grateful it wasn't more than that. But yeah, so I've learned my lesson,
Yeah.
and
Lessons
now
learned.
just keep. I'm just I can't get upset about it. It's happened. I've learned now.
Yeah, of course. It's
Um,
just part of the process. But it's also doubling down. You think about the emotions going on when, how hard it is to get an animal on the ground anyway, and then, multiple emotions, right? The wanting to make sure that you manage to make every like absolute use of this animal, all of the meat, don't waste it,
exactly.
and then also be
Yes.
respectful for the life that you took. So there's a lot
Yeah.
going on there, and I can understand why
No,
that would
it
be
was
stressful.
horrible, but yeah, I learned a lesson. Um, and yeah, now it's basically at the stage where I butcher the complete animal. You know, close to everything gets used. The organs get eaten. I've actually got a my fallow deer liver in the fridge right now, which I'm gonna turn into liver pate.
Sweet.
Um, so, for me, I feel super privileged and connected because, the bone is being turned into stew and bone broth. All the meat is being different roasts, all different types of roasts, all the steaks, all the mince, then all the sausage. It's the entire process. Everything is being used and being consumed. Um, so it's fantastic.
I love it.
Um,
I love it, dude. It's like
I
the passion
for
that
me,
you
it's
have.
everything.
The passion you have. It's almost like you need your own carnivore cooking show.
Yeah.
It's good.
uh, I say to guys, the food might not look pretty, but it will taste damn good, and I can assure you of that. Um,
Yeah.
but no, it's just being completely part of it and doing the butchering yourself and the processing of the meat yourself, which is obviously quite a big thing in the States, but in South Africa it's not really a big, or what I've seen is not really a big thing. You just would a butcher will do it, and I've just found adding that extra connection to my meat is yeah a game changer for me, and is learning a different skill, which I also enjoy.
Yeah, well, long may it continue, man. It's yeah, lovely to hear your story, dude, and yeah, hear like the energy and enthusiasm that you seem to put into everything. So that's fantastic. Yeah, thanks for sharing it with us, and hopefully at some point we can get you back. In fact, actually, I think we have planned to get you back and talk about like some hunting that we did together in the future, so we can do that. And yeah, it'd be great
I'll
to
show you
hear more.
next time you're in South Africa.
Yeah. Okay.
You can get
Wow. Okay. Cayden's holding up on our. I'll maybe send a picture. I'll put something in my Instagram.
this
Um,
fallow deer. You'll get one.
okay, yeah, that's a monster. He's holding up a monster fallow deer skull. It's like, I don't know, like
I just
wide set of antlers. It's very cool.
just beautiful paddles, and the fascinating thing with that fallow deer was it was pre-rut.
Okay.
So before the rut, they basically during the fallow deer rut, these things don't eat. They just all they're thinking about is does.
Yeah.
So they get ultra fat
Okay.
before the rut.
Nice.
And I mean, this meat I mean, you actually have to cut away the meat when you're doing chops,
Cut away the fat.
because
What do you
it's
mean?
so thick.
Or do you mean?
Sorry, rather you have to cut away the fat.
Yeah,
The
it's just
fat
so thick.
is so thick. So with that fallow deer, when I took it to the butcher, this was before I processed my own stuff. The butcher said it's the fattiest the fattiest fallow deer he's ever seen in his 50 years of butchering. Um,
Nice.
so I mean, I was actually cutting off fat before I would do roasts, and then I would just render the fat into like a tallow, and then you
Amazing.
just cook with it. It was
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna
unbelievable.
ask if you'd rendered it. Yeah, that's cool. I've got some.
Yeah,
I've got a bunch of fat, deer fat from an incredibly fat blacktail I shot that I was thinking about rendering down. So I'll have to try that. I'll pick your brains about that
so
sometime.
good. Yeah, no, you've got to,
Cool.
because then you fry your animal in its own fat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's definitely next level. I love it. Something to
No,
look
it
forward
is.
to.
It is.
Well, Cayden, thanks again for
Thanks,
taking the
dude.
time. It was awesome to hear your story, and hopefully we'll have lots of chats in the future. But
It's always good to catch up.
yeah, dude. Good luck with the hunt
Good
coming
story.
up. I want to
Thank
hear.
you.
I know you'll be in a place with no signal, but yeah, best of luck with that, and I want to
You'll
hear all
get
about it when you
a
get
lot
back.
of voice notes when I get signal.
Okay, good. I
And
want to hear all
calls.
about it. Sweet, nice one. Well, yeah, thanks
Awesome.
again,
Thanks,
and
dude.
speak to you soon. Bye.
Hundreds.
So, that wraps up another episode of the Wild Dispatch. I want to thank Cayden for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. There's always some good stories with Cayden, and there's going to be plenty more. We have another episode coming up where we actually do a bit of a walk down memory lane and talk through a day that we spent together hunting in the Eastern Cape. But we're also going to get together in the future. I'm sure once his hunt in Namibia is over, he'll be keen to get on the show and tell us about his experiences. Fingers crossed he manages to get that zebra. Or you can just find out for yourself if you give him a quick follow on Instagram, because that's where he shares most of his updates with whatever action he's getting up to. I'll leave a link down in the show notes. So, that's everything for now, and thanks for listening, and until next time.